Democrat of California, is joining us now with some thoughts on what's going on. Congresswoman, thanks very much for joining us.
Very happy to be with you this evening, Will.
Are you with the president on this deal?
Well, first of all, I have to say that too often we're asked to vote on legislation where we haven't even had an opportunity to read it. And so I definitely want to read exactly what is in this deal. Secondly, I listened to Speaker Boehner and have read his comments, and it appears that this deal is a deal that is similar to the bill which he introduced, of course, which I voted against. Thirdly, I'm not sure how in the world in this deal Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security would not be up for grabs. I have to see that and be assured of that. Fourthly, I don't know where these cuts are going to take place, who will get hurt. Obviously, if you're talking about discretionary spending, it's the poor, it's low-income individuals, it's the working poor, and it's middle-income people. I would suggest if all of these facts are accurate, we will see more people falling into poverty, and we will see this deal create more job loss. Now, yes, we must have a bill or something to help us from going off the brink in terms of economic disaster that's looming. And so we have to have a deal. However, I want to remind you that the debt ceiling has been raised many, many, many times under Democratic and Republican presidents. We should have raised this debt ceiling. I think it was a fundamental mistake to engage in deficit reduction negotiations around one simple matter, and that's lifting the debt ceiling.
But that's
we have to
obviously
create jobs.
It's at this point, with only, a day left, you can look back and say the president should have done this, should have invoked the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, should have done a lot of things. But at this point, if you don't raise the debt ceiling by Tuesday, Congresswoman, you know what's going to happen to your constituents, to Americans all over the country. Interest rates are going to go up. There's going to be a real strain on the economy. America's AAA credit rating could go down. That's going to put pressure on you to vote in favor of this, even though, from your perspective, it's by no means perfect.
We understand the consequences and have been working very hard day and night to make sure that we don't have this catastrophe that we all recognize could happen. And so what I am saying to you, Wolf, is we have to look at this and we have to make sure that the Republicans put up their votes. This is their deal, first of all. Secondly, we have to make sure that within this deal, and I said we haven't even had a chance to read this, that Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security and the most vulnerable are protected. We can't say any deal is a good deal if, in fact, we're going to have millions of people the next day out of work, the next day suffering. And so this entire deal is a deal that, yes, we need to look at, we need to understand, and we need to know exactly what is taking place. But from what I hear and what I have read and what I have learned, it is a deal that is very similar to the one that Speaker Boehner presented, and he has to make sure that his Republicans vote for his deal. Senator McConnell and Speaker Boehner worked this out. They have the numbers, they have the votes, and I'd suggest if Medicare is touched, and if Medicaid is touched, and if Social Security and discretionary spending is so deep, that's what they want. That's what they asked for, and that's what they got.
Congresswoman, in this first round, before the so-called super congressional committee comes up with its recommendations, in the first round, there's no impact on Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. That's all left for the committee to decide down the road how there will be what's called entitlement reform, how there will be tax reform. All of that is punted, if you will, to this committee down the road. So that's going to be that. But there's no impact on Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid, at least in the first round.
First round, this opens the door to the second round. And I have to tell you, I'm on the Appropriations Committee, and I know exactly how these cuts are being made and what those negotiations are. And so I worry about these triggers. If there is no revenue, if there's no tax increases, which, I mean, millionaires and billionaires and oil companies and all of those who have been benefiting from this economy, if those tax cuts and if those measures, those revenue enhancement measures are not on the table, what would happen? More discretionary cuts across the board. That means more senior citizens, more people who are poor, more low-income people, are going to get hurt. I just cannot accept that. And so this does open the door for that type of cut to take place, and that is unacceptable, Wolf. And so we have to read this. We have to know what's at stake. People need to understand that there's a possibility that this does lead to a cut in Medicare and Medicaid, and we have to be very careful in how we approach this. Speaker Boehner and Senator McConnell negotiated this. This is what they wanted. They have the votes. They can pass this. You know, and we need to get back to looking at how we, the next day, start creating jobs, because this deal is definitely going to end up with a net job loss. People are going to lose their jobs, and it's going to be a very dire situation for millions of Americans.
Congresswoman, appreciate your joining us tonight. Thanks very much.
And Wolf, you know, it's